So, 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 so. Hey guys, holy shit. This is a crazy one. We're talking about Calvin Ridley getting suspended for using FanDuel. Philadelphia fans making jokes on Twitter saying that Jalen Reagor was also doing it because they want him off their team. Hilarious. Calvin Ridley's suspension is more than those that have beat women or beat their kids or drunk driving or allegedly murdered somebody. It's not as severe as somebody that smoked weed. Josh Gordon's been suspended I think a total of 6 seasons with weed. On top of that, we have Aaron Rodgers staying with Green Bay. That's big news. Russell Wilson going to Denver. That's big news. I think that trade was a win for both sides. And then we have Carson Wentz just recently going back to the NFC East, and now he's a Commander Carson.
There we go. Hashtag.
What a couple of days. And it's March. Combine ends, and then it's all this drama just dropped. All these GMs were sitting around, and all these coaches were sitting around at the combine just hey, let's spice up the league. Let's just make this fun. And they were all drinking, drunk, and they're just yeah, sure, we'll do some trades, whatever. Anyway.
Some of these sound like some of our dynasty league trades.
Yeah.
Just some of our just sitting around bullshitting and saying, hey, let's make a trade. It comes to fruition.
You catch me at a time where I've had a couple cocktails and I say deal. But anyways, welcome on into the cheap seats. My name is Tyler, joined with our dynasty expert over on the coast, Jason. And here at Second and Short on our Cheap Seats podcast, we talk about all of our fantasy football content. But this offseason right now, we're diving deep and focusing on Dynasty. And we're going to be talking about our final division and our 8-part series of players you should buy from a team, players you should keep from a team, and players you should trade away and just get whatever value you can. With all that being said, let's top it off with the AFC North. And we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals, the best team in the division, Cincinnati Bengals. And this is going to be a fun one because we're going to talk about all 3 of their receivers. That's it. All 3 of the receivers. We went back and forth. We talked about Joe Burrow a little bit, but I don't think there's a right place for him or a wrong place. Joe Mixon's all over the place right now. So let's just talk about receivers. So the first we're going to talk about them from top to bottom. Jamar Chase. Let's not talk too long on this. If you saw what we said about Justin Jefferson, rinse and repeat, put it here for Jamar Chase. But anyways, why would you like to keep Jamar Chase?
Yeah, I mean, he showed flashes of brilliance. I mean, put up unreal numbers, single season records for a rookie. I mean, ungodly talented, good hands, even though, a lot of people were down on him, myself included. And I ate crow for it. I'm not scared to admit.
Everybody was so worried about him missing that whole season that we all kind of got blinded that this guy was so good that in college, we all didn't know who Justin Jefferson was. And Justin Jefferson was the second leading receiver in all of college football. But there was a guy named Jamar Chase in front of him that was that much better that we just forgot who he was. And he delivered.
Yeah. And, the chemistry with Burrow, I'm not a big fan of, thinking that college chemistry is going to carry over to the pro. I was proven on with this. I mean, Burrow and Chase have a legit connection. They had that familiarity, and it showed out in a lot of these games. I mean, he's an unreal talent. He's a generational talent. And I think he's got a bright future. We talked. He's in the up as high as 4 overall in some startups, and as low as I think the lowest we've seen was 11, 12. So
yeah, I think even in super flexes, he's still going in the first round because he's a guy that you can, unless you're in a special league that a salary cap league or whatever, he's a guy that you can have on your team for the next 10 plus years and you're locked and loaded. Don't have to worry about it.
Or in the injury. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about a receiver that we are wanting to trade away. And that for us is T. Higgins. Now we kind of went back and forth on this, talking about all these guys, but I have been looking all over, and I don't know what it is, but every time I'm on Reddit or I'm on Twitter or I'm on Facebook on the Dynasty Nerds Facebook group, somebody's always talking about T. Higgins and about how valuable he is because he's actually the best receiver on the team or whatever, something, whatever. But he is getting regarded as a top 12 to 15 receiver right now, which isn't wrong of people to say about him. He did finish as wide receiver 24. The problem is when you're on a team with this many weapons, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get all, the looks. But with his value, here's the thing. We both agree he is the second best receiver on this team and second valuable receiver on this team. But if he's getting looked at as like a wide receiver one-ish, and you can trade that away and get massive value, I'm talking multiple first-round picks, I think that's a good thing to do at this point because I think he's almost plateaued his value.
Yeah, and, if let's remove Jamar Chase out of this offense and he's easily, a wide receiver one, we could be talking about him as a cornerstone generational talent, with Burrow coming back, resurrecting Cincinnati Bengals. But they also have Jamar Chase. And I think this is a nice issue to have because he is a talented receiver. He has a glass ceiling, but he can break through it.
You're absolutely right. He can break through this glass ceiling. And I mean, I'm okay to trade a guy away that is on the cusp of being something that everybody believes and being wrong on like, I traded him away and I got 1.5 this year and a 2023 first and a 2023 second. And then he booms out and is a top 8 receiver. I'm okay on like losing that situation in the long run, because I think that just the other side of that coin is that he stays as a wide receiver 2 and you get more value in the long run out of what you got back in packages through a trade.
Yeah, he's one of those players that, I would rather get the short-term rewards, let somebody get the short-term rewards and hopefully I get the long game.
Yeah.
Then I always second guess myself.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously here's the thing. We have a segment right now. This episode is buy, keep, and trade. So we have to put somebody somewhere. He just falls in that category because I think his value right now is more rich than he's ever going to be able to obtain in fantasy. Now, a guy that we are going to try and buy is Tyler Boyd. Now, this seems weird. Tyler Boyd, why would you buy him? He's the third best receiver, right? You win dynasty leagues with wide receiver 2s and 3s on your roster. You do. And Tyler Boyd as the third option here, maybe even fourth when you add in like how much they run the ball, he was wide receiver 31. And I guarantee you can get him for like probably mid-second round pick this year in a weaker class. And you can have a wide receiver 3 that you can start in your flex spot every week over that rookie that probably isn't going to deliver, more than likely isn't going to deliver. And I think people are so high on Jamar Chase. He's almost untouchable in most leagues. They're so high on T. Higgins because of the upside they see that nobody's even talking or giving a shit about Tyler Boyd. And you know what? He might be able to, I don't know when his contract's up, but he could leave at any time and go be he was just a number 1 and number 2 the past couple of years before they got these guys. And he's still being pretty stellar, even as a third option. So I love buying him, especially at his price right now.
Yeah, and you got to look matchups. You're going to have all the defenses are going to cater to defending against Chase, defending against Higgins. Boyd's going to benefit from that because he's going to have those mismatches. He's going to have those linebackers and second tier safeties trying to defend him. Mm-hmm. And he's got amazing speed. He's got solid hands. He can break it at any time. The ball in his hands is nice. He's got great yards after catch. He doesn't take big hits. He plays smart. So I think this is a win-win if you can buy him for a mid-second this year.
Yeah, I mean, and he still received this past year 94 targets, and he's going to be turning 29 this year. So he's one of those guys that if you're, let's say like you're a playoff team, you made your semis, but you need that kind of big push and everything to kind of get yourself over the edge. Your pick 2-9 isn't worth more than a guy like Tyler Boyd for you in the next 2-3 years. He's been relatively healthy. I mean, 16, 15, 16, 14, 16 his rookie year. He missed 6 games his second year. So really he's missed like a handful of games in his 7 years. And he has been in my 6 years And in my opinion, he's been exactly what you need, a guy that can kind of deliver for you in a starting role when you need it. Now let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. And this team was full of talent just like a year ago. We were talking about this, and they're slowly getting depleted. And we don't know what's going to happen here. We don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to be here, if he's going to be gone. We don't know if Jarvis Landry's going to be here or going to be gone. This team could look way different in like 6 months when the season starts. Now, there is a guy that we do know that's going to be there. And he is kind of, I don't know, stepping up a little bit. He just turned 23 years old, former 6th-round pick. This is Donovan Peoples-Jones, we are going to buy. He had about 3 touchdowns, 34 catches, and like 600 yards last year on a team that spread the ball around. And he did that on 600 yards on 34 catches is pretty damn good.
Yeah, and with all the uncertainty and a role to fill with OBJ getting traded, that opens up the most obvious wide receiver 2 in that.
Mm-hmm.
But, Landry also being questionable. So you have that wide receiver 1. So this is a good time to buy him before he has a breakout season and he becomes out of your price range. So it's the player definitely you want to get on before everybody else takes notice in your league.
Yeah, I mean, he had 5 as the number 3, or probably we count the running game. He's probably like the number 5 or 6 option there. He had 5 games in double digits this past year. So which doesn't sound like stellar or anything, but it shows that they're willing to push it with him. And he's a guy that's a deep ball threat when he needs to be. He has some return yardage upside as well, which I think might tailor away if he becomes like a number 2 there. I do see Cleveland being in the wide receiver market, whether in the draft or in free agency. But with that being said, I think Landry is good as gone. Salary cap wise, it makes sense for them to move on from him. And really his only big competition is David Njoku and like Rashard Higgins. So I like Donovan Peoples-Jones right now to take that step forward from a number 3/4 to a number 2 and to deliver you a solid 50 catch, 800 yard, 5 touchdown season. And a guy that you can constantly, like Tyler Boyd, move into your flex spot. And I think he's cheap right now, very cheap, because most people don't want to touch the Cleveland Browns. And that's because Baker Mayfield, who was our keep. Now, we went back and forth on this a lot. And you wanted to put him in the trade, but then we started looking at where his ADP is and where he's falling and everything. And I believe that Baker Mayfield, you will not be able to trade him for tons of value in Superflex leagues or single quarterbacks, probably nothing. But I do think that he has a chance to outperform where he's been lately. He finishes a quarterback 25 on most formats. And I just think that Baker is young enough and good enough to do better.
Yeah, I mean, he has a huge upside. I don't think he's realized his potential. And I think that's one of the things you want to stash. I don't have any problem running with him on my team as my backup quarterback, my QB2. I think he will perform well enough if, barring any injury, your QB1 goes down. I think he could step up and produce solid numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's a serviceable player to hold on to. And I think once they get lined out in Cleveland and he gets some solidarity and some I guess comfort in the team without all the moving pieces.
Yeah,
I think that's when he's going to realize his potential, and you're going to cash in on and have him possibly move up to a QB1 position.
Yeah, and this is kind of like you almost like you might have bought high on him when you did get him, you might have drafted him higher than he is now. So don't just lose value so soon. I mean, this guy was the man in college, and I think that he needs to be the man wherever he's at. And I think having some dominant personalities around him has affected that. Plus, it's Cleveland. Stuff is always crazy in Cleveland. We don't know where he's going to go. We don't. There's talks of him getting traded. We don't know. He's in his 5th-year option. He's not going to get a big deal that he's wanting. So, I mean, even if he stays the next year, he might be a free agent. And the quarterback landscape, as we're seeing, is changing crazy and it's wide open. Like going into next year, right now, Carolina has Sam Darnold. Houston has Davis Mills. We're saying no Watson. Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh. Seattle has Geno Smith. Indy has Sam Ellenberg. Is that right? Sam Ellenberg?
Yeah.
There's a lot of places out there that don't have a talented quarterback that Baker could step in and improve that team. So I think he's an obvious hold. Wait and see what happens with him, where he lands, how he performs this year. And you know what? Just when we start doubting him, like we did after his first few years, he kind of outperforms. In year 3, does really well. So let's just wait and see. Now, we're going to trade away a guy that is at peak value. Nick Chubb, a guy that's averaged over 5 yards a carry his whole career. He's never broke 300 touches in a season, carries in a season. He's going to be turning 27 at the end of the season, like in week 15, 16. But he's on that second contract. He's on a team that could be going through a rebuild. We don't know. Offensive line slowly breaking down, but he delivers. I think now is the time to trade Chubb and get a haul.
Yeah, I think he falls in that category of like Mixon, Derrick Henry. You know, they're going to perform. So you're going to have a team that's willing to pay for it to get over that hump in your league. So you're going to be able to get a sizable amount back, especially if you're in a rebuild and you just got him sitting there and he's kind of not doing anything for you. So you need to commit to your rebuild, get multiple picks, get some younger stars before they hit their breakout peak. So, yeah, I think this is a good, wise move because I think he's definitely being drafted in as a top 10 running back easily. So you're going to be able to cash in on that value. And you got to look at this when trading away. Do not think of short-term value. Look at the long-term benefits of trading him away.
Yeah. And he has just made, I don't know, he just made so much, he just made such a big impact that even having somebody else like Hunt there doesn't hurt him. So I think that's going to benefit you when it comes to trading him because he can still deliver. He was number 2 in yards this past year with sharing the backfield with somebody else.
Yeah, and Hunt keeps him fresh.
Yes.
He's not taking the grueling pounding as somebody like a Derrick Henry. That is a workhorse.
I believe that if you can somehow trade Nick Chubb for like a younger back and like get like another pick in turn, like if you can get like Michael Carter in like a mid to late first round pick, or even like Michael Carter in a 2023 first to like a team that's like a contender, I think that's a good deal to do. And that's a win-win for both teams. That's something that I would kind of be looking at. Maybe like something like David Montgomery and like a late first this year or like a high second. Something along those terms is what I would be looking for. Or try and find your wide receiver and, you know, maybe the next guy we're going to talk about, which Baltimore Ravens, let's buy somebody. Let's buy a receiver. Let's buy Rashad Bateman. Now, a little pricey probably right now. He was a late first round pick last year, high second round pick in most dynasty drafts. But I think he's the best receiver in Baltimore. And I think that we need to buy him before he blasts off to the moon.
Yeah, I think this is a person that you're going to have to spend for the talent.
Yes.
Because there's outside of Andrews, there's no wide receivers that like leap off the page to you. But I think Bateman has the potential to do that, and he's going to, and he's one of these players that you're going to see their return in year 3 and beyond. First 2 years could be shaky, but that's the best time to buy because he's going to get that higher the draft, rookie draft, and then did have a stellar season. People are down on him, so this is the time to jump in and get that value and and buy low before he does start costing you way more than what you want to pay for him.
Yeah, I think this is a case where you might have to shell out like a late first round pick this year to get him, but that's okay for me. I would rather take a guy that I like the talent. The landing spot is so for me, but he did see 68 targets in 12 games. In 8 of his 12 games, he saw 5 or more targets. That's a positive thing for me, especially from a team that runs the ball so often, that if he's able to see 5+ targets a game, that makes me pretty happy going forward, knowing that I'm probably going to get, 120 target season, maybe like 100 target season. Let's say 100 target season. If I get 100 target season out of him and I get like 72, 73 catches, that's probably good for 1,000 yards. And he's probably going to score 4 to 5 touchdowns. You know what I mean? So we're talking potentially to break into that DJ Moore type of range is what we think could happen. And I think with how young he is going into his second year, I just really like him moving forward. Now let's talk about a different position that is a player that's just, he's hard to evaluate, at least for me. And that's J.K. Dobbins. Go ahead and talk about him. We're going to keep him because I don't know what to do. I don't know where his value is.
Well, Dobbins is, like you said, he's really hard to gauge. Coming off of an injury, definitely, limits what you could see out of him.
Yes.
So, you're going to have people trying to lowball you for him. But when he did play, he's seen some success. He's seen, he had a decent rookie season, not explosive.
Like 900 total yards, 9 touchdowns. So it's like a pretty good year.
Yeah. But, a lot of people are down on him because of Lamar Jackson inside the 5 likes to run the ball and Lamar's running abilities. So they discredit the running game in Baltimore as well because they want to give all the rushing yards to Lamar. So that's what really makes him hard to evaluate. But I think he's young enough. Yes, he's coming off injury, but I think he's a player that I would rather hold on and stash and reap the benefits than sell him away out of frustration and regret it.
Yeah, I think that is a real big thing that we see people kind of do is that, oh, he's hurt, I'm going to get out of this. Kind of like, this isn't as similar, but like Cam Akers, anybody that like, as soon as Cam Akers news broke, was just getting rid of him right away and didn't wait and see what was going to happen, are now the losers in those deals. But when I go and I really want to look at their roster right now. So Gus Edwards is still on the books for next year. J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill. That's about it. There's really nobody else there. So, and I don't think either of those guys are guys that I'm like too worried about. I don't think the Ravens are going to worry about drafting a running back early because I think they have other pressing needs. So really Dobbins should be healthy, a full year removed from the injury going into the season. He's still 23. He'll be 24 at the end of the year. We might not see the same burst out of him, but I think that we might still see RB2 production. I just don't think that you can trade him for what his value could be at the end of the year. So wait until the end of the year when he does well. And I don't think that you should be buying him because I think people are going to keep that value of what he was when they drafted him 2 years ago, which is probably like at 1.3, 1.4 in leagues. Now let's just go ahead. Let's sell. Let's trade away Lamar Jackson. Let's get rid of him because he's so dependent on those rushing yards, which I think they're going to be there. But we see this all time and time again. What happens to these running quarterbacks? They get hurt, right?
Yeah, the bodies break down. They start seeing injuries piling up.
It happens.
You start seeing lingering injuries. You start seeing, the wear and tear of the seasons.
He dove in the end zone and hurt his shoulder. He didn't even get tackled. And he started breaking down.
Yeah, and you see this. The NFL season is a growing season, especially for a quarterback. So the hits he takes from defenders, as well as the extra risk he has as being a rushing quarterback, that piles up. We've seen it multiple times. As the season went along, his numbers dwindled.
Yeah, I mean, he ran the ball 133 times. So if we take out his rushing touchdown and let's just say he ran out of bounds 30 plus times, that's an extra 100 times he's getting tackled than like most quarterbacks. He got tackled 100 times plus 38 times he got sacked in 12 games. We're not even counting how many times he just got hit when after he threw the ball. That's a lot of times to be hit by a quarterback in 12 games.
Yeah, and and those injuries pile up and they linger. The older you get, injuries linger.
Yeah.
So I think he's at one of those prime positions that somebody's wanting to cash in. Mm-hmm. Especially if you have him in a superplex, this is a perfect time to cash in. Because you can sell him on the rushing yard, you can sell him on, he's still fairly young. But you're going to reap the benefits. I think he is one of those players that if you're dependent on, you're going to be disappointed come your playoffs, as I was in one of my leagues.
Yes.
I went undefeated until the second round, had Lamar, and Lamar cost me the season. So he's one of those players that his value is going to be high based on his rushing. Yes. But his risk is going to be high based on the punishment he takes throughout the season.
If you can trade him away and get one of the rookies from last year, plus something else, because like right now he's like his ADP is a first round ADP. He's like QB like 7 in most spots, QB 8, 9, depends on who we like, Dak more, whatever. But he's around that range that I think that you could trade him for a tier 2 quarterback, like a QB 2 plus, and you'll reap the benefits in the long run. When I'm not saying that I don't hope Jackson breaks down. I don't hope he gets hurt. I never hope that any of these quarterbacks that, try and change the game or just try and be a little different or just try and extend the legacy of running quarterbacks. But it happens. I fought it with Cam Newton. It happened. I want to fight it with Lamar Jackson. It's going to happen. And I think that if you can somehow get Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence, who people are down on, if you can get Trevor Lawrence plus a future first round pick or a first round this year or anything, I don't think that's a bad deal. Maybe you can kind of get like a little package of things. Maybe get Mac Jones and I don't even know, Mac Jones and Chris Godwin from somebody. Doesn't sound appealing right now, but I'm just, you know what I mean? Get like a quarterback 2 and a wide receiver 2 in return that will benefit you longer than this guy that I think is slowly going to slip out of QB1 range with the next few years. That's where I would go. But yeah, you want to move on to the Steelers?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, if you can get a 2-for-1 and better your team, definitely pull the trigger on it, especially getting a young quarterback that you can hold on to for multiple years that, plays smart, does, and is in a system that they're not going to take the abuse.
Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers time. Big Ben's out the door. We don't know who's quarterback yet, unless while we're recording this, breaking news happens and Jimmy G gets traded there. But the really easy one, we're going to do something that I didn't do this past year after I drafted him at 1-1 in a Superflex league. Or no, it was 1. I got him at the 1-2. 1-2 or 1-3. I don't know. It was really high. I got him really high. Najee Harris. So don't be like me. Now, I am very aggressive in leagues. I will take risks. I will trade away big name guys. I will trade away guys that I just drafted really high to try and get lots of values. I'll try and do those 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s, because I think it'll benefit me long term. Let's dog on me for a second. Mid-season, Christian McCaffrey is hurt. Dalvin Cook is hurt. I have Najee Harris at running back. I have a pretty good running back core. I was not okay with that. I needed to stretch my bench a little more. I needed some more depth everywhere. And I got offered Chase Edmonds, Calvin Ridley, and a 2022 first round pick. At face value, it doesn't seem that bad. But then James Conner kept dominating. Chase Edmonds was okay, not bad. Calvin Ridley leaves football. Then he gets suspended. And then the guy I traded for won the league. So I got 112. So it slowly got worse for me. So don't be me. Keep him, because here's the thing. They're going to have to run the ball 300, probably 400, 500 times this next year. And he's going to get 300 of those carries. They're going to run the ball so much next year. You just keep Najee Harris. Don't trade him yet. Don't be, that's premature. It was premature trading is what I did.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is a player that
it was very nice of you not to dog on me.
I was letting dog on yourself.
I did.
This is a player that I feel I wasn't high on, because I'm not high on Alabama running backs. I think for every Derrick Henry, you have an Eddie Lacy. That is a flash in the pan. So I wasn't high on him. And me and a guy got into it because he was like, because he thinks Alabama is the greatest thing they ever have, and Alabama's never produced a NFL player that isn't a superstar. And I asked him to name, outside of Derrick Henry, name me a running back that's successful, that is a legitimate success in the NFL. And it took him 10 minutes, and I laughed.
Mark Ingram was pretty successful in the NFL.
Yeah.
After a couple
Josh
years.
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs is successful right now. Trent Richardson was successful for 2 years. Eddie Lacy.
The longevity.
Longevity.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was going on. I was going on longevity.
Yes.
And it took you 10 minutes to come up with somebody after he did a series of Google searches, I'm sure. But I think Najee is one of those, the next Alabama running back to equal Derrick Henry's success. I think he's got all the tools there. I think he landed in the right spot in Pittsburgh, because they're a really smash mouth team. They are a cold weather team, and they deal with the nasty elements, so they have to ground and pound a lot. So I think he landed at a great spot for success. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. You want to build around running backs, and I think he's a great one to get your team up and going with.
And speaking of which, happy birthday. The day we're recording this, it's his birthday. He just turned 23 today. Here's the big thing about him, why he's so valuable. He saw 93 targets last year, and then he saw 307 rushing attempts. He was targeted or handed the ball a total of 400 times last year. That's going to continue. That's insane. It is insanity. But what you need to do is you need to ride this for another year, enjoy this, get some wins out of this, and then trade him at the end of the season. Not until after he started delivering, then you trade him away. Yeah. Now let's talk about a guy that let's end this. I want to end this on a positive note. So let's talk about a guy we're going to trade away. Speaking of trading, we're going to trade away Deontay Johnson. Now you could have put Chase Claypool here. That'd have been fine with me. But Deontay Johnson is a guy that relies on those underneath routes from Big Ben. Big Ben's out there. I think he relies on getting lots of targets to be successful. He still suffers from some drops he finished as a top 10 wide receiver this past year, but he had 169 targets. His catch percentage on those, I don't even know the math on this. I don't even have it on here, but he caught 107 balls on 169 catches. That's 62 targets that he did not catch. That is not, they're all drops, but that's 62 targets he did not. That is a lot of targets to not be catching. Yeah.
Yeah. And I fully agree that his hands really concern me. Yeah, it's okay.
He's not a bad receiver. Here's the thing. Here's why I want to trade him away. Real quick, before you dive in. I want to trade him away because he just had a 100 catch season with over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, finished as a top 10 receiver. I think him finishing at wide receiver 8 this year in most PPR formats is his peak. I believe every receiver has a peak year in their career, and I don't see him doing better than what he just did with a different quarterback. That's just me, especially considering the fact that like Juju was hurt all year. James Washington wasn't really getting used properly. They're probably going to bring in another guy. Claypool wasn't Claypool really. That's me.
Yeah, it's about a 63 and a half catch percentage, rough numbers.
I don't like that.
No, that's very low, in my opinion, for a receiver in the NFL. But yeah, you got to look at it as this. Yeah, he is young. He does have all the potential there. Did he get more attention because of Juju being out, Washington being underutilized? Yes. So the opportunity was there for him to have that, but still 63% catch percentage. I hate that. So I think it's a good time to cash in for somebody that may be a homer, may be hyping him up. But you also got to look, you're going to have a new quarterback learning a new system that doesn't have any kind of repertoire with him. So you got to look at that. You got to look at this in a vacuum and take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and not just try to base everything on his potential. So that's why I'm settling. I'm settling for somebody that wants to buy his potential.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of love for him right now. I've seen people rank him in the top 10. I'm not a fan of it. Like, if you can go out and you can sell him, considering what I'm seeing ranking wise, you could sell him for like Amari Cooper plus. I would do that in a heartbeat. I know it sounds a little crazy. Personally, for me, it sounds crazy, but I just saw a ranking list from somebody and they had Johnson at like 10 and they had Amari Cooper at 24. And I was just blown away. I was like, what are you talking about? They performed the exact same pretty much at their peaks. But things like that, situations like that, if you can pull off a deal in that situation, like, do it. Even if it's so minimal as like getting like 2-2 in Amari Cooper for Deontay Johnson, I think that's a win. I think you should take advantage of people having this like, oh, this guy's like 24 and he's going to be amazing forever, when he hasn't consistently done it, when he's had other people taking away attention from him. Now he did. I mean, that's also a positive to him for you to sell him, because even though those other receiving guys were gone or they weren't playing up to their potential, he was delivering. That's a selling point. But for me, I kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel already. And I'm willing to move on. And again, it's one of those situations with T. Higgins. If I'm wrong, cool. I'm okay to be wrong on this situation, but I like the value I can get this offseason. Let's talk about a guy we should buy. Let's end on a happy note. Pat Freiermuth, Penn State tight end, second round, comes in. Everybody kind of liked him going into last year's rookie drafts, kind of getting like high second round rookie draft picks in there. I don't think I ever saw him touch the first round, which is probably good. But he came out with 60 receptions, 79 targets, about 500 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So he's a red zone threat. And what do we always talk about? If you're a rookie quarterback or if you're a new quarterback, your two best friends in a system are a reliable tight end and your running back. Well, those are the two guys we're going to try and buy and keep. And I think finishing as tight end 13 is a sign of good things to come. And I think that you need to capitalize on this before he does even better this year.
Yeah, and he is such a big body with amazing hands. I mean, he does have that big frame. He reminds me of maybe an early Gronk Hernandez type build that could just overpower and and take balls away in situations, and use that body to shield defenders and haul in grabs. So I really like this. He's going to have a great career, I think, in the NFL. He's going to be a top 8 tight end.
I could see him pushing in there. I could see him pushing in there as soon as next year.
Yeah, because I mean, like Knox and Schultz, they had kind of outlier seasons, so that those two players are not going to meet that level every year. So
Kelson and Ertz are getting older. Waller's getting hurt. Yeah.
So I can see him start pushing into that tight end 8 range, which is great, especially at the value you're going to get him at.
Yeah. And I think So what I'm saying here is that if you're, I don't know if you try and buy Dallas Goedert anywhere recently, he's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I think Pat Freiermuth is in the same trajectory as Goddard. I think in the next like year or two, we're gonna see his value be at the same thing as like Goddard's, where like Hawkinson's, where it's like it's kind of expensive to buy a tight end, and if you're gonna spend that price, you might as well buy a better tight end. So I just think that you should buy him now because of two reasons. A, you're gonna get a return investment because he's gonna outperform what you pay for him, I believe, in the short term. And then in the long term, when he's up there in 3 years, I'm going to guess, this is just speculating, that Kels, Ertz, and Waller are all going to be non-existent, and that somebody of Schultz and Knox are probably going to fall down even more. And he's going to step up, maybe like tight end, like 5 or 6. And in that turn, you could turn around and flip him for almost double of what you bought him for in the 2022 offseason. I just like the way that he's moving up. And here's a big thing too. He had 34 first downs on 60 catches. So over 50% of his receptions went for first downs, which means not only is he a red zone reliable guy, but he's also a guy they look for on third down as well in intermediate routes to move the chains. And guys that are important on moving chains in football translate to fantasy value because they're on the field more. Simple as that. That's how I look at those things. Plus, he played 16 to 17 games last year, which shows health. He developed and fit into a system. And I just think that he's going to be whoever comes in's best friend next to Najee Harris, especially if it's like Malik Willis or something like that. So, and that's it. That's it for us here on Second and Short, the Cheap Seats Buy, Keep, and Trade segment. We're done with this topic. It's been a nice 8 weeks talking about this category. We're going to move forward with who even knows what. We're going to surprise ourselves. We're going to think about it this weekend and figure it out on the fly. With all that being said, please be sure to subscribe if you're here on YouTube right now. Down below, help us build this brand up. If you like our takes and everything, also like the video. Comment down below who you guys are trying to buy, keep, or trade from these guys here. And if you're listening to us on any of our audio platforms at all, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave us a review there, like and follow as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Follow us everywhere. We are also partners with the W2M network, where you can check out our stuff there, as well as many other podcasts where you can even hear Jason talk about movies. That's your key.
I just finished up the Black History Month with Mark Bradley. I got basically on trial for the very first Leprechaun, Jennifer Aniston's breakout movie.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with it. It went down a lot of rabbit holes, and our verdict ended up, we talked about Paranormal Activity as our verdict. It's really fun listen. So yeah, definitely check me out there. Go over there, have some movie reviews. I'm reviewing the new Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts movies coming up. It's a Jurassic World movie I'm a part of. So yeah, definitely check me out over on W2M.
And you can also check me out talking about The Challenge, which is an MTV reality contest show, over on Love War Challenges podcast with MTV Malik and Giftmaster Bex as well. Thank you guys for listening. Get out there and start trading before all these guys start going, and have a good one.